are standing by with their thumbs up their asses, waiting for you to call. So call.
Call the Alan Cox Show. 216-578-1007 or 1-800-348-1007.
$35192 if you want to send a text. Thank you to whoever is helping back there in our video department today. Who is it? It's, Honer Guspuss. Thanks so much, sir or madam. If you listen to the iHeartRadio app from out of state, tell me where you do that too. Make sure you were on our list of bureau chiefs I mentioned before the break that today would have been Eddie Van Halen's 68th birthday. And I'm so laser focused on David Lee Roth era Van Halen. Just that's what I came up with. They had bigger hits, and with Sammy Hagar, he was already a superstar in his own right when he joined Van Halen. But a lot of people reminded me, how does Poundcake not even know that Van Halen has a song called Poundcake? How does he not know that?
I knew that song existed because I've heard it, but I didn't know who it was. I didn't know who it was. People would send me that song all the time. You used to play it on the show all the time, but I didn't know that was Van Halen.
Never curious.
They all sounded alike to me.
Yeah, lack of curiosity around here astounds me. Astounds me. Nobody asks follow-up questions.
Drake also has a song
If somebody mentions, maybe I'm a different breed of cat, I guess. Somebody mentions something to me that's seemingly irrelevant. I want to know more about it. I'm just curious. I'm a curious person. But
it has to
not
be
Poundcake Boy. He married, no follow-up questions, nothing.
And that's with Mary. It's interesting because it's literally about work and like just relevant to her arriving, knowing what she's going into, and she's just like, "I'll be there." I will be interested in stuff like if it's a topic that I'm curious about, I'll do a deep dive on it. I'll get into it. I'll be all about it. But if it's something that I have no interest in, I'll be like, this doesn't even exist to me. That's why I was such a bad student, because there was so much stuff that they would teach me that was not of any interest to me. But when there was something that I was interested in, they'd see how, like, my teacher would be so frustrated. Like, how come you care so much about this? I'm like, because that makes me happy. The other stuff, don't care. It's never about the grade.
You have, obviously, people are going to care about different things. The way my brain works, usually when you were a kid and going to school, the reason people weren't interested in things largely was they would say, I'm never going to use this. And my brain was like, I don't know what I'm going to use or not use. And so I'm curious about something that I know very little about. Because the things you already know those. You might know more about them, but you already know something about them. For somebody who travels as much as Mary does, and with the frequency with which any kind of travel can get jammed up, I would think you'd want to know chapter and verse, every beat on that itinerary, so that if something does invariably get screwed up, you've got a contingency. Instead of like, I guess I'll figure it out.
Turns out I have a 2.5 hour drive when I get here. I didn't even think about that.
How do you not know? Anyway, so Poundcake was familiar with the song. Thank you for everybody who reminded me, because, again, Hagar Van Halen is not what comes immediately to my mind. But yes, a song called Poundcake. And when Poundcake first joined the show, people were like, it was a little too on the nose for me. Like, it's not that great of a song to begin with. And I wasn't going to play it every goddamn time we were, talking about Cody. Be unfair to him. On the subject, though, also before the break, Bill from South Jersey called in and was asking me if I'd ever heard of Fearless Iranians from Hell, early 80s Texas punk band. Did you hear the Madonna punk music? Maybe this has made the rounds for a while. I had never heard it before.
Is this Madonna doing punk music?
It's Madonna when she first got to New York.
Okay. I don't
1980.
think I have heard this.
Before she became the queen of pop, because Madonna famously, Horatio Alger's story in pop music, shows up in New York, 26 cents in her pocket, whatever that legend is. She sang and played the drums with a New York new wave band called the Breakfast Club. And again, a lot of these, a lot of those punk bands, they all kind of had that same sound. Late 70s, early 80s, all kind of had that Dead Kennedys vibe to them. And now Madonna's back in the news because she's going on that tour to celebrate 40 years. But when she was studying to be a dancer and she was dating a guy in a band, that guy had formed a band with his brother, who was the guitarist. And her dance career wasn't going anywhere. She wanted to be a dancer. It wasn't going anywhere. And she did a couple of songs. They did like a 4-track demo. And this song is called Shrimp on the Ground. As in, I don't want to live in a safe neighborhood. I'll go outside and shrimp on the ground. And it sounds very kind of Go-Go's-ish, But it's Madonna in 1980, right before she left to form her own band called Emmy and the Emmys. So she was determined to make it. She's like, I'm in this band, I'm going to this band, but, here's a little bit of it. It's like somebody pitched up Pat Benatar.
But it doesn't sound awful. It's not bad.
No, for 1980, who knows what they could have done, But about a year later, she decided that she was going to be a solo artist. She signed with a little record company. And
I think she should do this on her tour.
I think she should too.
Should bring it out.
All right, everybody.
If she did it with her like deeper, more like a little breathier voice now, it could sound really badass.
The set list, she's going to go, celebrating 40 years, go from Justify My Love to Shrimp on the Ground.
Yeah.
What was the allure of Madonna? Why did she get as big as she did? Like
right place, right time.
Okay, I was going to say,
that is everyone's story. Whoever got big was right place, right time.
Becoming a pop star at the beginning of MTV and then pushing the boundaries that she did.
Yes.
Her music was popular, but her videos and her performances at award shows and just her personality in general was so outrageous that it was what you'd hear about more than the actual songs.
Because the argument against Madonna since forever has been she's not a good singer. Like, classically speaking, not a great singer. But everything else, you can fix that in the studio, right? There's a lot of artists that aren't awesome live. You can sweeten it in the studio, and if they have a personality and they're cute, she was cute.
Very cute.
It's adorable.
And very open about her sexuality and pushed those boundaries when those things were still so... there just wasn't people really doing that yet in the way that she was.
And also, I give it up to...
Her stuff was overt.
Yeah, I give it up to anybody who is hell-bent on making it in showbiz, right? She comes out of Bay City, Michigan, for God's sake, and she's like, I ain't hanging around here. I'm going to New York. She dropped out of college. She went to U of M on a dance scholarship. Go Blue. And she relocated to New York City. And she's like, it was the first time I was ever on a plane. First time I ever got in a cab. I had $35 in my pocket. It's like when I moved to LA. The first time I was ever on a plane is when I moved to LA. I was 20-something years old. 20. And same thing with Madonna. Now, you might have noticed we've had distinctly different career paths.
I always think of you as the Madonna of this show.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I am nothing if not a material girl.
Well, I was just thinking closest in age.
Son of a bitch. So, yeah. When you're determined to make it. And along the way, she would tell these anecdotes and stories, and nobody really knew what was true and what wasn't. You have to build kind of a legend around yourself.
I say most people just thought she slept her way to the top.
Well, no, one of her early stories was when she was still trying to be a dancer in New York. She hadn't lived there long. 2 guys mugged her at knife point and forced her to orally pleasure them in an alley. And you take her at her word, it's an awful, awful story. But some people were like, I don't know if that really happened. Nevertheless, who cares? She would go on to establish herself. And then she's like, well, I want to try some movies. I want to try this. I want to try that. Not a great actress. But she went out there and she's like, screw you. I want to do what I want to do.
She was perfect in A League of Their
Shanghai Surprise.
No,
What?
A League of Their Own. She was great in that role.
Yeah, she was good in that.
That was
But she didn't have to carry that either.
No, and I think if she had done more stuff like that, she would have maybe had a few more acting roles. But when she started trying to do lead work, it wasn't her cup of tea. But Dick Tracy. Well, Breathless Mahoney, was that the name?
It's something like that, yeah.
Who's a better actress, Cher or Madonna?
Cher, I think.
Yeah, Cher's been in a lot better movies. She's been in some classic Witches of Eastwick. I rewatched that not long ago.
Mermaids, come on.
Mermaids.
I just thank the Lord she didn't live to see her son as a mermaid. Merman. Merman.
There you go.
Is that from Mermaid?
Zoolander.
Okay, I didn't.
No, that's Cher in Mermaids.
Okay.
She was in Burlesque.
Witches of
Zoolander's
East.
one of those movies that people love, and I watched it one time, and I was like, it's fine.
Agreed. Yeah.
It was not a movie that stuck with me.
I
anyway.
only know it because like Gwen will quote it. I go, God, Zoolander was never a bullseye for me. But there's some funny stuff in it. Man. Yeah, Cher has been in better movies. But,
And I think was more critically well received.
She's in Masked. Like, that's an Oscar movie, right?
Yeah.
Mamma Mia. She's been in a bunch of things. What was the one with, Nicolas Cage?
Leaving Las Vegas?
No, Moonstruck.
Oh, okay.
Very famous movie that she did in the 80s, Moonstruck. She had a huge string in the 80s. It Masked, Witches of Eastwick, Moonstruck, Mermaids. She had 4 or 5 movies like that. Silkwood with Meryl Streep. Speaking of mermaids, Chicken of the Sea Tuna is offering $1 million to anyone who can produce proof of a mermaid. Now, if you remember, Jessica Simpson famously thought that Chicken of the Sea was what was that whole thing at the time?
Is it chicken or is it fish?
Right. She thought it was chicken that they pulled out of the ocean or something.
Yeah, she thought it was literally like sea chickens.
Mm-hmm. Sea chicken. Well, you know how the manatee is called the sea cow?
Mm-hmm.
You could forgive her for thinking that...
manatee.
Handle too much pizza. You could forgive her for thinking that the tuna was also referred to as a sea chicken. But I don't think that that's... Unless she's privy to something I've never heard before, I don't think that that's the case. But Chicken of the Sea is offering $1 million to anyone who can provide proof of a mermaid. Now, this is a great way for Chicken of the Sea to get some press. Because how else are you going to do it? Right? You're packing tuna. You're not exactly top of mind in people's day-to-day. So you got to come up with something. They go, we got it. What's our logo? It's a mermaid. It's a female mermaid. It's redundant, but a human. It's not a chicken with a tail. Now, here's the only caveat. All of their official rules need to be followed. And God knows what those are. You think it would just be, here's a video of the mermaid I found.
But the
Nope.
video doesn't prove anything.
It's
People can
all spelled out. Mermaid is defined as a half-human sea creature with the identifiable head and torso of a woman or a man or a child. So it has to... Scientific evidence is defined as an unaltered video. The mermaid has to be communicating in a discernible oceanic language. God, it would have been so fun to put these rules together.
And it couldn't have been one of those mermaids with the fish part on top and the lady part on bottom.
No. Oh, no. No, not at all. You want the beautiful woman with the clamshell bra and then the fin. You don't want the upper, you don't want fish torso and then lady legs.
Yeah, that's what you think until you want to get it in, and then you're like, where am I putting this thing?
Oh, no. Oh.
Then it's just
upper
laying
half's
eggs, and you're just
then it's just a fish.
Sad dude
yes.
just cranking one over a pile of eggs.
Oh. Yeah, you got to have the human part be the top. Bottom, it's a whole other thing. The where do I put it is a lot easier, but then it's just a giant fish with a full bush.
Why it gotta be a bush?
Because you're living under the sea. Wait, is she shaving down there? No. It's a natural occurrence.
Creature, yeah.
Right. That's a social construct that girls are walking around with hardwood floors. In the wild, in nature, she wouldn't be shaving.
She might.
She'd have a full anemone down there.
She might. If that's what it looks like. Is that a clownfish, or are you just happy to see me?
Exactly.
But they did wear like seashell bras and stuff, so there is some decorum.
Which I always thought was weird. Yeah, I thought it was weird that there would be modesty down there. Because you don't know what's above. You know, you're living down there.
Right.
You have a fin. Do you get fin rot if you're a mermaid or a merman? I don't know. So that's just a little bit of food news there for you, that if you have, some of our listeners in more coastal cities,
so
maybe you have some information on this that could score you $1 million.
Why is it a mermaid and not and then, like, when it's a man, not like a mer butler?
I don't know.
Merman.
It should be merwoman, is what you're saying?
Merwoman, yeah.
Merwoman. Okay.
I just thank the Lord she didn't live to see her son as a mermaid. Merman. Merman.
Yeah. Very dramatic.
Now, they did tackle this subject on an episode of Futurama where they moved the city of Atlanta they turned it into an island, and then it sunk.
Atlantis?
Well, it was the lost city of Atlanta.
Oh, it was? Oh, because it's in the future. I understand,
in the future.
Yeah.
So they moved it off the coast of Georgia there, and then it sunk, and then the chemicals from the Coca-Cola plant caused the citizens of that town to evolve and be able to survive underwater and become mermaids. So maybe there's a way to make this happen.
Oh.
Welcome to Atlanta. Folks around these parts call me the Colonel. Here, have some breathers, courtesy of our Chamber of Commerce.
This is uncomfortable and humiliating. Now, if they could put it in the form of a suppository.
Y'all enjoy your stay. Tourism's our main source of income around here, so see the sights, spend some money. Please don't leave.
Mm-hmm. And then right into the Krispy Kreme.
And then they get to the point where Fry ends up with one of the mermaids, and that's when he decides that he doesn't want to just fertilize her eggs. He wants to get into it. And he makes that declaration like, oh, I wish this was one of the mermaids that had the fish part on top and the lady part on the bottom.
Well, there's a lot going on there.
I'm excited for that show to come back.
Futurama.
Yeah.
Never got into it.
Big fan.
One day we could really use a fish detective, and Mary's out, somebody points out. Yeah. I do remember the show The Man from Atlantis when I was a kid. Loved this show. It was Patrick Duffy. Remember Patrick Duffy? He got really popular in a show called Dallas back in the day. He was Bobby Ewing. But The Man from Atlantis, and it couldn't have been on long. This show was probably on a season, maybe, one or two. And he had webbed hands and webbed feet. And I would have been probably kindergarten, first grade. He shows up. He doesn't know who he is. He's an amnesiac. And they give him a name. and they go, "You're the last survivor of Atlantis." And then they're doing experiments on him and things. Very, very 70s show. But the intro is him swimming around with webbed hands and webbed feet. Why those were the only webbed parts of his body remained unclear. But he had superhuman strength, and he'd squint because, the light, his eyes were very sensitive to it. He was used to living in the depths, and he could withstand, pressure.
You could withstand pressure, too.
He could withstand extreme pressures, yes. But there was a lot of B-roll footage of this guy, transitional shots of him, like dolphin kicking through the whatever. But boy, did I love that show when I was a kid. The Man from Atlantis. And I don't know that Patrick Duffy, that's a guy that never shows up at the Comic-Cons. He could have been like, "Hey, I was the Man from Atlantis." Tell Bill Mermaid is short for Mermaiden. I don't know that changes anything, though.
Yeah, but what's the male version of maiden?
Butler. Right? Right.
Well, yeah.
And if you give birth underwater, the baby won't breathe the air until you pull it above the water. So my plan is to have a baby and keep it underwater and raise a merchild. Is
that true?
Oh, boy. I've got to go to a break. If you would like to text Poundcake, the explanation of the gestation of mer-children, 35192. You can watch live at AlanCoxShow.com, and I will have another $1,000 for you